Hello, my name is Robin Reed, and I am a candidate for the Education Specialist degree in Instructional Technology at Kennesaw State University. I am currently a 7th grade special education teacher at Northwestern Middle School in Milton, Georgia. I have been teaching and counseling in both private and public schools for the past 16 years. The title of my field research project is Digital Game-Based Learning. Does it improve motivation and engagement in the 21st century special needs classroom? The classroom of the 21st century is increasingly becoming less traditional and more technology-oriented. Student skills with technology outside of the school environment is a major driving force of this change. Teachers are becoming more skilled with digital tools in the classroom in order to motivate and engage our students. Children enjoy digital games outside of school, and educators are beginning to use more digital games in the classroom for learning. Students with special learning needs may show increased engagement and motivation for learning using game-based lessons. According to Van Eck, 2006, page 2, research has shown that using digital instructional games with students can be engaging and maximize their learning potential. In a study conducted by Key and Abras in 2013, page 239, researchers found increased levels of affective and cognitive engagement in children with special needs playing educational pre-algebra games. Key, in 2008, conducted a case study to investigate the impact of computer math games on student engagement. Results of the investigation revealed computer-based math drill games significantly impacted student engagement, especially when the task was relevant and challenging. However, when students were asked to leave the game environment to answer skill-based questions, their level of engagement decreases. 21st century students are requiring modern methods of instruction in order to increase levels of engagement, according to Elliott, 2014. Traditional methods of teaching, including textbooks and supplemental workbooks, are becoming outdated and uninteresting to students. As children have more access to technology, it is becoming increasingly important for educators to create lessons that include digital tools. Yang, 2012, found that motivation and problem-solving improved in a digital game-based learning environment. In the case of complex problem-solving, students who are unable to identify solutions to the problems may experience more difficulty and lose motivation for learning. Tsai, Yu, and Seo, 2012, found that students with lower academic ability and with weaker problem-solving skills became more discouraged and experienced decreased motivation for learning. Students with special learning needs have experienced increased motivation using digital game-based learning. Key and Abras in 2013 found that students with special learning needs can experience increased motivation and engagement when presented with a potential reward. The researchers suggested that in order to maintain interest for students with lower skill levels, digital game designers should pay close attention to the skills being targeted so as not to overwhelm these students. In a separate study, researchers found that disadvantaged students, given the opportunity to play Minecraft in an 8th grade humanities class, revealed increased motivation and engagement as well as improved self-esteem, according to Elliott in 2014. However, Kim and Chang, 2010, discovered that ESOL students may actually exhibit a decline in motivation as their linguistic abilities begin to affect their ability to gain game rewards. The methods used in my qualitative research study included a design and data collection process implemented to answer these research questions. Does student motivation and engagement increase with the use of digital games? And does the use of digital games have a positive effect on the motivation of students with special learning needs? For the purpose of my study, participants were identified as special education students in a 7th grade resource social studies class. Students were exposed to game-based learning over a 1-class period of time using a geography game, Shepherd software, to identify traits associated with motivation and engagement, and ultimately problem-solving skills. My research was best suited for a case study design because these students are familiar with individual attention and are more sensitive to large groups. The resource class setting was selected for the questionnaire and interview, as this is the student's normal classroom setting and where they appear to feel most comfortable engaging in conversation. The behavioral observation was conducted in the 7th grade computer lab, as this environment might be less distracting for the game-based learning. Participants ranged in age from 13 to 15 years old. There were 2 females and 2 males included in the study. 1 student was African American, 2 students were Latin American, and 1 student was Caucasian. 2 of the Latin American students, both females, are part of an ESOL program in language arts and reading. Demographically, the school serves families in predominantly middle to upper class neighborhoods. So this particular participant pool is not a typical sample of our school population, as 3 of the 4 students are from middle to lower class home environments and live in apartments in the area. For the purpose of the study, I chose to focus my interview on 5 specific areas: the size of the class, student involvement, how instructional games might help learning, feelings about playing games in the classroom, and comments about instructional games from peers, teachers, and parents. For the observation, I chose to observe the participants playing an instructional game. In starting the research, I sent home permission slips to parents outlining the details of the research and the confidentiality of each student's information. I also explained that the information is for research purposes only and that all identifying information will be destroyed at the end of the study. I did not need to obtain IRB approval in order to begin the research implementation with my participants, as I am currently a teacher in the district in which the research was conducted. I then conducted individual student interviews before beginning the research study. I then exposed the participants to a game-based geography lesson on Asian geography. Student interviews were conducted immediately following the game-based learning experience. An open-ended questionnaire with 5 questions was presented to each student following the unit assessment. I then was able to analyze perceptions and experiences of these students with an Asian unit utilizing game-based learning. Overview of analysis. Coding was used to organize student observations into usable groups of data. Numbers were assigned to teacher observations of student behavior. For example, observable facial expressions, such as smiling and frowning, were categorized in order to measure occurrences and report data for motivation and engagement. A smile received a 1, a laugh received a 2, a negative comment received a 3, a positive comment received a 4. I was then able to analyze themes that may have developed. In order to protect internal validity in this study, I standardized the questions for the participant interview, asking simple, easy-to-answer, open-ended questions first, conducted the interviews in a safe, familiar environment, and provided the participants with assurance of anonymity. In order to protect external validity, it was important for me to remain as neutral as possible in regards to student interaction, as I am their current social studies teacher. Confidentiality in this study was addressed by assigning numbers to each participant instead of using identifying information. I protected my participants by obtaining parental permission as well as gaining individual student consent. IRB approval was unnecessary as I am a teacher of record in the county, as noted. All data was kept in a secure, locked file cabinet in the researcher's classroom. Overview of my results. Results of the study indicated varied levels of motivation and engagement. As I interpreted the data, I specifically looked for specific behaviors and comments that were directly related to the experience of digital game-based learning. As I was analyzing the interview responses, it was evident from that some students experienced more motivation and engagement than others. There was also a distinct difference in motivation between my 2 ESOL female students. For example, in response to an interview question about their feelings about game-based learning at your school, and can you give an example of something you might change, one student stated, "I like it because it takes a lot of time and we get to play and we get teams and stuff. Yes, I think they need more games for home access for students to learn." While her peer stated, "I don't like it. Instead of games, it would be better to talk to each other so that we know everyone's involved." During my observation of students, positive behavior such as smiling and consistent eye contact with the game was noted in 3 students. Student perceptions were positive in these 3 students as well. However, the same ESOL student was looking around and playing with her cell phone, making perception statements such as, "This is boring," and "The internet is too slow." Reflection on the Capstone project. Going into this research study, I was assuming that all participants would be more motivated and engaged when using digital games to learn. I was also assuming that students with special learning needs will all respond positively to a digital game-based learning as well. In conclusion, it was evident from the research that some students showed more motivation and engagement when presented with classroom instruction, which includes digital games. According to a study conducted through the University of Michigan in 2015, in order for a student to learn, they must first be focused and paying attention. Digital games provides teachers with a tool to help improve the focus and attention of their students, and thus improve their learning experience. Although this Capstone project is not easily generalized to other classroom settings, it did afford me the opportunity to conduct an in-depth study of the use of digital games for learning in my own small resource class. Based on my earlier statements about difficulties that ESOL students might experience, I was surprised to discover that there was a distinct difference between the motivation and engagement of my two ESL students in playing the games. This suggests that there may be other factors contributing to negative behavior and perceptions rather than linguistic difficulties. According to Van Eck, 2006, page 2, the most difficult part of incorporating these games into all learning areas is that we all need to show why digital game-based learning is effective and how they can be implemented. We know that digital games seem to improve motivation and engagement in some academic areas and for some students. It is clear from the differences in my small group of students, we still don't know what accounts for these differences.